up, we speak with artist John Isaiah Pepion about his ledger art. Plus, Tamara St. talks about the 6-year effort to bring Native ceremonies to the Army's repatriation process. And This Indian Kid is a new book for young readers. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Amarawa Hopa. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Thank you for joining us. We start today in Canada, where the Minister of Indigenous Services has been told to cut this year's budget by Treasury Board President Anita Anand. Minister Patty Hajdu claims that service delivery to First Nations will not be impacted, but the budget will drop a total of $7.6 billion. Cindy Blackstock, Executive Director of the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society, said she has serious concerns, and she's not the only one. Métis Nation President Cassidy Caron expressed that these funding cuts are inconsistent with the intent of reconciliation and the nation-to-nation relationship with the Métis Nation. In 2007, the Assembly of First Nations filed a human rights complaint alleging the underfunding of family services on reserves was racially discriminatory. It resulted in a $23 billion proposed settlement that went towards wellness and maintenance programs controlled by Indigenous Services Canada. We turn now to Nevada, where a campaign for a new national monument is picking up steam. The Confederated Tribes of the Goshute Reservation, the Duckwater Shoshone Tribe, and the Eli Shoshone Tribe are leading the effort. They want ancestral ceremonial lands known as Basawabi or swamp cedars protected as a national monument and commemorated. It is also the site of 11 massacres at the hands of troops and vigilantes. Campaign leaders say the time is ripe with growing political support.
Time is very limited. The Secretary Holland, of course, we have 2 Nevada senators that are supporting this, but we also have the Nevada delegation, the Nevada Senate and the Nevada legislature. They supported a resolution in support of this national monument. So, the stars have aligned, and there's a small window of opportunity to get this done, get it across the finish line.
In Oklahoma, the Southern Baptist Convention has ousted a church whose pastor defended his blackface performance and his impersonation of a Native American woman. The executive committee of the nation's largest Protestant denomination voted Tuesday that Matoka Baptist Church of Oshalata be deemed not in friendly cooperation with the convention, which is the official terminology for an expulsion. The church's pastor, Sherman Jacques, dressed in blackface for a 2017 church Valentine's Day event. He claimed to be impersonating the late soul singer Ray Charles. There was a photo published by the Examiner Enterprise of Bartsville showing Jacques dressed as a Native American woman at a Cowboys and Indians night at a church camp. Jacques says he's part Cherokee and wasn't attempting to caricature Native people. We head now to China, where authorities have banned a book on Indigenous Mongolians. Radio Free Asia says orders have been issued to remove the book called A General History of the Mongols. It is by scholars from the Inner Mongolia Institute of Education's Mongolia Studies Department. Inner Mongolia runs most of the length of China's border with the independent country of Mongolia. The move is perceived as an effort to target ethnic Mongolians by Beijing and cultivate Chinese national identity. Indigenous Mongolians make up 20% of Inner Mongolia's 23 million people. They have become increasingly vocal about environmental degradation, inequitable development policies, and ongoing efforts to erode their traditional culture. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Ledger art has become a popular style across various tribes. Plains artist John Isaiah Pepion from the Blackfeet Nation has the history and significance behind the art form. Here's ICT's Paris Wise with the interview.
One of the first starts of ledger art was in the 1800s when the government started forcing assimilation policies on the indigenous peoples of America and Canada, and started putting us on reservations and start locking us up for living the life that we live, say as hunting buffalo, going on raids, or just protecting our people and feeding our people. And they wanted us to farm and stay on reservations, so they start sending warriors and women to penitentiaries. And one penitentiary after an old Spanish fort in Florida was called St. Augustine, Florida, which is still exists today. They were sent there. Started out with more of Southern Plains warriors like Southern Cheyenne and like some of the tribes that are now in Oklahoma were shipped out there on train for a couple years there. Some eventually died there. I think there was even a couple women locked up there with them. But the soldiers start giving them used ledger paper from the government or blank paper, crayons, colored pencils, ink, and then the warriors start drawing the lives that they couldn't live no more. They were drawing battle scenes, courting scenes, their dreams, what they were used to living on a lot of the ledger paper that's considered Fort Marion ledger art. So that was a period of ledger art. And ledger art is over 100 years old, and there are several periods, and the period we're in now is contemporary ledger art, where men and women do it now, and several tribes do it besides Plains tribes. So kind of got it start there, and then it continued on. Another period is the reservation period, where Indian agents were encouraged warriors such as Sitting Bull to draw their lives on ledger paper. So that's why Sitting Bull has a few ledgers out there.
So you're mostly known for your ledger art. What was the inspiration behind some designs in your ledger art, and where did the love for it begin?
I see a lot of it is stemming from my tribe, which is Blackfeet, also known as Pekuni here in Montana, inspired by our designs that we use in ceremony, and our even our older designs that are passed down to like our teepee designs, our parfleche designs, our winter counts. And then growing up in a family of artists, I had a passion for pictographic style art and ledger art all my life.
Your art takes many different forms too. You recently had a collaboration with 8th Generation, and you released some earrings. Can you talk about that?
It's been an amazing journey with 8th Generation. So I'm an artist collaborator with them. I represent the Plains region. I've been with them since 2018, and we just released a line of metal earrings, because we started out doing wood earrings and then they kind of like faded out. Then we did acrylic earrings, and so we let them kind of fade out. Now we're into metal earrings. I'm part of a Inspired Native project, which was started by Louis Gong, who was the founder of 8th Generation. It's been a program, like an entrepreneurship program. So they gave me the tools to start my own business. So with 8th Generation, I started my own business, more of a e-commerce business. So I have all these products, especially my original art, and I ship directly from my home to my customers. So the people that are buying on my website are buying from me directly. And so, yes, I released a few blankets with them, and socks, earrings, notebooks, and I'm getting ready to release another blanket and some more towels and some more stuff for the holidays with them.
You've done some murals as well, some of which have been at schools. What would you say to youth who are interested in art and the importance of art in schools?
I think that art saves lives, especially if you feel hopeless as a youth and nowhere to turn. And I feel art is therapy. Sometimes I've witnessed students that came in and said they didn't like art or wanted to participate. Took them a few days or a few weeks, and then you couldn't stop them and are great artists themselves. I believe everybody are artists, and then I think it's up to you if you want to choose to create art, because, like I said, it's in all of us, especially as Indigenous people. We are creative, whether we're singing, dancing, beading, writing, and nowadays with technology, we can do all kinds of art or media, even writing.
And earlier this year, you gave some lectures at Yale University. Can you tell us about that experience?
It was a great experience. I was invited out actually by a non-Indigenous student who happened to be part of their Indigenous Studies program and found me on Instagram. And then we worked out all these opportunities and ideas. So I went out to Yale and gave some lectures to students and visited a few places, but also visited the Yale Peabody collection of items from my tribe, and building a relationship with the museum, and also looked at the Beinecke collection. Went to the Beinecke Library where there's numerous thousands of items and things from around the world. It's one of the world's biggest collections of all kinds of history and books. So they have a lot of Native American, even original ledger art in there. So I researched a lot of original ledger art. Some of it from Fort Marion, some of it from Carlisle, some of the Kiowa Five, and a lot of stuff from my community. And it was a blessing because me coming from my community here in Montana and reading about the stuff they had and knowing about the stuff they had and actually seeing it in person was a blessing.
Yeah, what was it like to see some of those pieces?
It was awesome, and it was great because I know for a fact that some of the stuff they had of ours hasn't been touched or seen by a person in our community in years. So everything has a collective spirit. So with that, it was great handling, and I just reminded our ancestors that we are still here and that someday they will come home.
How do you approach your ledger art?
As most artists, I can't work in a negative space or around negative energy, so I have to have a clear mind and good thoughts. So I usually start out with ideas, and I have so many ideas running through my head since I was a kid. So I just got to be inspired. Lately, I'm inspired by birds. I love birds. So I usually get a piece of paper. I don't choose the writing or the date. I just choose the size and how it looks, the texture. Like if it's kind of like um, older, more gray, or if it's more lighter, depends. And I draw right on the ledger paper. I sketch right on it, erase my marks, add the ink, and then the details. And so every piece is just chosen at the moment of time because I have different pieces of paper laying around. Sometimes I just dig through it and find one that just appeals to me at the moment.
And how can people see your art in the meantime or get one of your pieces?
I have a website, which is just my name, John Isaiah Pepion, and they could find my social media through there. I post a lot on Instagram daily, sometimes on my Facebook. I even have a Facebook art page, but you can find a lot about what I'm doing on my website, and has all the products I have on there. I try to keep updated with my originals, and then I share what I can, even with my shows or where I'm showing on Instagram.
John Pepion, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tamara St. John worked for years to get the remains of one of her tribal ancestors returned home from a cemetery at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. The road seemed headed for a dead end, but with the help of some attorneys at the Native American Rights Fund, it ended in a historic pact that introduced ceremony to Carlisle repatriations. St. John spoke with ICT's Stewart Huntington last week about the effort.
This has been a 6-year battle to try to find a means to facilitate this. The Native American Rights Fund people had been able to break through for us and build that bridge with the Army, to even have the conversation to develop an agreement. Sisseton, Wahpeton, and Spirit Lake are one family. We are under the same treaty of February 19th, 1867, and our battle has been to be able to do things together in the way that we know that we need to do, with our spirituality, with our protocols, using our resources and our experts to be able to do this and bring them home. And, the ongoing conversations have been confusing. Our communication has been sporadic at best over this 6 years. And if you recall, the Army's policy of next of kin really doesn't work. It doesn't work for most people. They have resulted in this long 6 years, a 6 year wait to bring them home because we weren't able to at one point find the actual name of the father of one of them, or the fact that there are no historical records in 1879 that would name a child. It's an immense undertaking to try to meet that Army policy standard. We as a tribe have that right to be able to facilitate these things in the best interest of our families, our community, and our children. We know best. We know how to take care of our people, and to let us do these things in a way that honors our spirituality. The boarding schools were intended, and certainly Carlisle is probably the most notorious, known for to kill the Indian, save the man, that kind of mentality. And so to move that all the way to this process and to have ceremony or prayer in our language and in our ways of prayer, our spirituality, our protocols, to be able to do that right there at Carlisle, the very place that was intended to erase those things, is really a tremendous, tremendous, I think, success for us and for other tribes. One elder had said to me, these young men would have been chiefs had this not happened to them. And when you bring them home, you bring them home wrapped in buffalo robes like the chiefs that they are. And so we made that commitment to do that. And you notice in the agreement, there is not only those elements of spirituality, prayer, and protocol with our traditional societies and our spiritual practices, but also the buffalo robes, that the Army will be supplying those buffalo robes. Typically, they would do the American flag, the slow salute, transfer ceremony. And in this instance, we feel this is not their story. That is not their story, that of a soldier. We need to define the narrative and share the truth of history, the truth of who they are, and what happened there, so that our modern generations are able to understand and maybe understand where we are today. This whole story has been about everything related to education and history. And those are things that I think in many states, in many communities, we fight for those things, to be able to share our history in truth in our own voices. And in this instance, instead of the military cemetery policy dictating the transfer ceremony of like a soldier, we are doing this the way that we know is best, a way that is with family love, with truth and honor.
Tamara St. John, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you do.
This Indian Kid, a Native American memoir, is out this week. Author Eddie Chukalate spoke with ICT Shirley Snavy about growing up in Oklahoma and many other places. Take a look.
The book is about your reminiscence from when you were a child. Tell us what started you thinking about this and why you wrote the book.
Well, some previous adult level short stories that I've written, some dealt with things that happened when I was a kid. And I had like 15 or 20 pages of something I had begun that I didn't use, but I saved, and I sent it to my agent. And he really liked it. He goes, if you had do you have enough for a whole book of these growing up? I said, yeah, a lot of stuff I haven't been able to use yet. And he said, if I could, to just start on a memoir of when, I was growing up. And that's how this took off.
The story is pretty fascinating, and it's not your typical growing up story because like a lot of Native families, you moved around a lot and had a lot of experiences. I particularly liked the part where you lived with your grandparents. Was that important to you?
Oh, yeah. If I wasn't with my mom, I was with my grandparents growing up, either or, so she practically raised me, you could say.
It seems like the spirits were guiding you, like the Great Spirit was guiding you through your life, because you described some things that you must be embarrassed about now.
Yeah, but I put it in the book. You talking about destroying the band room, maybe?
Yeah, I'm talking about destroying the band room.
Well, you can't make yourself, come out looking squeaky clean, because everyone knows they're not squeaky clean. So. And at one part in the book, there was nothing really, you read a lot of books like I survived being beaten as a child, or my parents were severe alcoholics, and there's none of that in there. And he said, no, you don't have to worry about everything, bringing out all the bad stuff. It's just people like to read about good moments too.
I enjoyed reading all the different adventures that you had when you were young. And this is for young readers, I imagine, about middle school. Would you say, is that what the intended audience is?
I'd say 7th grade and up, even into an adult. There's a lot of adults that have been reading it lately. People I've sent advanced copies to, and one of them, he said, I was halfway through when I saw that this was supposed to be a kid's book. So the language and everything is pretty much the same, vocabulary and everything. I didn't change for that. All I changed for was stuff that I would actually write about, like for an adult book. I just left stuff like that out. I didn't try to write around it or tap dance around it. I just left stuff like that out.
Knowing that you have grown up to be a successful adult in spite of what I guess I'd say is kind of a troubled childhood. Would you describe it that way?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was idyllic or not without, bumps along the road. Some kids go to one elementary school for 4 years, then go to their junior high for 3 years or whatever, then their high school. They're in the same house, same neighborhood. Me, it's like 14, 15 different schools, 5 or 6, 7 different towns, sometimes 2 schools in one day.
Why do you live in Minneapolis?
I came here for a job at the Minneapolis Star Tribune newspaper 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years at in the next month. And I think that's the only time I was ever in one place for 4 years in my whole life. Because obviously going through school, I changed every year. So that's obviously out. Even when I was 1 or 2, we always moved around. In high school was only 3-year high school. I was at the same place. And then in college, I moved. So for 4 years is a record.
You had some important people in your life that helped you out along the way, would you say?
A major one was my high school baseball coach. who was also a journalism major and former sports writer. He had me take his journalism class, and that's how I first started writing on any sort of professional level. And he saw that I had a knack for what was going on, and he set me up with the local paper right off the bat, and that's how I started my sports writing career. But if it wasn't for him, I don't know, that probably never would have happened.
So if there are takeaways from this book that you want to make sure that that people read this and something that they can take with them, what would that be, Eddie?
Getting second chances in life, and just because you've hit a stumbling block along the way doesn't mean that your life has to go down a certain path. There's always room to recover and stay on the right path.
This Indian Kid, a Native American memoir. Eddie Chocolate, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Shirley.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.